Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. Hello to our preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
How are you all?
I'm good. How are you? That was not meant for me, but you know.
Well, I care about you too. It's okay.
Thanks.
Surely. And we want to say hello to particular places.
Costa Rica. Hello, everybody from there. And St. Louis, Missouri. Hello.
It's so incredible to me that there are so many places listening to this podcast
incredible.
That every week we can get on here and shout out different places.
Yes.
It's really,
it's
wow.
really cool.
So we want to thank all of you and tell you to please keep talking about this podcast. Yeah. We very much appreciate it. Also, please contact us about this podcast at howpreschoolteachersdoit.com. We have a contact form and we love hearing from our preschool peeps.
Our peeps.
Yeah, from our preschool peeps for sure. I was doing a professional development session recently, and the person who hired me to do it said, "It seems you have fans." And I'm like, maybe so. I don't know. Maybe so. We do enjoy that.
We
though.
do like that. Yeah.
Especially because it's the two of us sitting in this room in my home. And we don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're here to talk about something that for years as a child might have been the bane of my own existence.
It was for me.
There you go.
It
was for us.
Yeah.
And that is recess. Recess, so often talked about like the prize of the day, like recess. We're going to get to go to recess.
Yay.
Recess, so wonderful. And yes, recess is very, very important. And children absolutely need to be ordered recess.
Yeah.
Recess, however, is not joyful for every child. It can be very, very stressful to the children. There are children who find the atmosphere and activities done at any kind of outdoor playtime to be very, very stressful.
Yeah.
One of the things we know about stress and young children, or even adults, is that it raises something in your blood called cortisol. It raises your cortisol level when we're under stress.
Yeah.
And that's not good for anybody at all. It really can cause harm.
Yeah.
Also, when we take children outdoors and they find that stressful, what are we doing if we're not addressing that stress?
We're just saying you have no choice but to be stressed for a half hour at the very least.
At the very least, 30 minutes.
At the very least. And like, we don't care how you feel. Oh, well, you had to go again. Like,
Do children need to go outdoors every day? Yes.
Yes.
The question is, are we providing options outdoors that allow children who find it stressful in the typical environment of recess to have something to do that helps them to feel safe and secure? Mm-hmm. So let's think about the typical environment of recess, shall we?
Let's.
Okay, let's do that.
Yes.
So we made a list before we got on to record this episode. And here's the list we came up with to describe why recess might be stressful for some children. And when we say recess, I'm talking about not only recess as we talk about it in like a public school setting, for example. I'm talking about in your early childhood setting, whatever that is, when you take children to play outdoors in a group.
Yes.
That's recess, right? Yes. You take children to play outdoors in a group. That's what we're talking about, group outdoor play. Yeah. If you are a family and you are raising children and then you take the children to a busy playground, that's group outdoor play.
Yep.
So let's, instead of calling it recess in this episode, let's call it group outdoor play. Okay. Group outdoor play, very stressful for some children because it is physically demanding. Mm-hmm. And on behalf of the children who
do not like doing physical activity.
Or can't do physical activity
or cannot.
well.
True. Yeah.
On behalf of the children who struggle with their gross and fine motor development. Yeah. And on behalf of those of us who are simply more clumsy than others. Yeah. Who are never going to be picked first for playing ball.
Correct.
Who are never going to be picked first to do any of these physical things. Yeah. That's a tough environment.
That's tough.
Right?
Yeah.
Also, it is a highly social time of day. which
probably why I don't like it that much, because that's too social for me.
there's a lot of social interaction that takes place, and that's fine and it's good, and children need to be exposed to social interaction. We also know that some human beings do better in small groups than larger social groups like this.
Yeah.
Okay. Outdoor time, no matter where you are, tends to be less structured.
Yeah.
Was another thing on our list.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think the structure adds to, and I think there's people who thrive on like structure, or not even structure, like.
Is the microphone picking you up? I don't know. I'm
I don't
interrupting
know.
now. Go ahead.
Sorry. I don't even think it a structure, because I don't think of like my classroom to be like super structured like that. But like, I think there is, what's a lesser term for structure?
There
Like,
is
it's just so.
there is a structure. Even when you think about free playtime indoors, so there's freedom to pick what you want to do and who you want to play with, but there's also the structure of the room.
Right.
And there's also, when we say 4 people fit here, 3 people fit here.
Boundaries.
Okay, maybe that's a better word.
Maybe that's what it is. There's no boundaries outside, really.
There are safety boundaries.
Yes, but that's really it, right? So like, if 20 people want to go on the slide, as long as they're taking turns and doing so safely, there's going to be. Whereas like in the classroom, it's like, sorry, only 4 children fit in this area.
So we can call it a different type of structure.
Yeah.
There's a different type of structure outdoors than there is inside. And it can feel to children like far less structure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because, and here's the next thing on our list, because outdoor play tends to be a bit chaotic.
It is chaotic.
This is the place where, when you say to children who are speaking in very loud voices inside, this is the place where we say, if you want to yell, you can do that when we go outdoors.
Yeah.
So it's not only more movement happening everywhere, but there's generally louder
noise.
Sounds. Yeah.
Yeah, more noise.
There's also the nature sounds. There's the nature sounds, there's the children's sounds, there's the more sounds. And we don't usually tell children to quiet down out there unless it's gotten so loud that if there was emergency, we wouldn't know.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Because this is the place they can yell.
This is the place you should do it. Yeah.
Another thing we wrote down is that sometimes children, especially as they become more and more verbal and aware of the people around them, they can sometimes be verbally mean to each other.
Yep.
That often takes place during outdoor play because the children perceive themselves as outside the earshot of the adults. You're not in a room with walls.
Well, and they typically are, right? I mean,
you're not in a room with walls.
Area.
Right.
Yeah, much larger area. Yeah, you're not. There's no walls.
There's no walls. Think about it, folks. There's no walls. There's more noise.
Yeah.
Children who are going to be verbally mean figure, they're not going to hear me.
Not going to hear me. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they go over and they whisper mean things. And so verbal meanness can be happening.
Yeah.
Bullying sometimes outdoors occurs more often than indoors.
Yeah.
Because of the perception of the environment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So now the question is, all of this is going to go on. We can't.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Everything we've listed.
For generations, and will happen for generations to come. It's just the way, the nature of group outdoor play.
So the question is, are we providing the children who need something else to feel safe, secure, and not stressed with what to do? So we came up with another list.
We did. Because what happens, I think, is sometimes the adults don't want children to just sit there. Okay, so like in my school, you'll love this because there's kids that sit on the steps, and I call that, oh, you're being a stoop kid.
I love that.
I say this all, you're being a stoop kid, and I let them be a stoop kid.
I love
why
that.
Not sit
I don't even know. So here's how Allison knew I would love it, folks, because they're like, what is she talking about right now? Why would she love that? So it comes originally from a TV show.
Yeah, so
Stoop Kids.
I don't remember what TV show.
The Stoop Kids. And they used to say, my children used to watch this show because they used to say something about stoop kids are afraid to leave the stoop whenever the kids would sit.
Yeah.
In the front. Maybe it was Hey Arnold.
Maybe
it was Hey Arnold.
Okay.
I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me.
Tell us.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it came from a TV show when my children were younger. And I have neighbors who are always sitting out on the stoop gossiping with each other. And by the way, they are not women.
No,
okay. If that's what you're thinking. They are not women, but we have these neighbors who are always sitting outside talking with each other. And if you want to know anything going on in my neighborhood, you check with them. You go to them. And I started calling them the Stoop Kids.
Yeah.
Which kind of caught on.
So in my school, there's like a stoop that goes up to the set. So there's kids that will naturally, a lot of them will just sit there. And I think it's okay to sit there. Like,
Yeah.
who cares that you're sitting on this? So I was like, oh, I make it a big deal. I'm like, oh, cool, you're being a stoop kid. Like, it's a cool thing. And there's a lot of teachers like, no, get off the stoop.
Get off the stoop, go in the middle of the chaos.
Yes. And I'm like, what's wrong with them sitting on the stoop? So, like,
They need a place.
yeah, they need
So
a place to go. There's no
in
place
our-
for them to go other than the stoop.
in our classrooms, we should have a cozy corner where children can self-select.
Yes.
We don't send them there.
Yeah.
They decide, I want to go play alone.
Right.
So if a group of children outside has a space, whether it's a stoop or a corner or whatever they
Wherever.
have,
Yeah.
where they can go and be out of the chaos of the whole
chaos.
crowd,
Yeah.
then they should be allowed to do that.
Right,
We
right.
also should provide them with some materials that lets them know, oh, there are things you
There's
can do
other
if you don't want to
things.
be in the middle of
There's
this
other
going here.
things to do. Yeah.
For example, when I used to direct a school, we used to put big paper, mural paper up. We'd clip it up on the fence. We had paint out there. We had markers. We had crayons. So children who wanted to do art outside could go over to the fence and draw and
Yeah.
paint on
I
it.
love that idea.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
That reminds me, I've also seen music fences outside where people hang
Oh,
up
is it like old
pots and pans. They
Yeah.
hang them up on the fence. If
Yes.
you take pots and pans, because they usually their handles have a hole.
Yeah.
So you string through like what are those, twist ties or
Twisty
something?
ties,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you hang them safely on a fence, and you give them wooden spoons, and they can bang on the pots and pans.
That's a good idea too.
So that's something. I also always had books about nature available in like a container.
Yeah.
So that a child who feels like, I want to just sit with a book and be
Yeah.
calmer,
Yeah.
they can grab a book. And they were about nature because we were in nature and related. Just
Yes.
like indoors, see, we keep comparing to
See?
indoors.
Yeah.
Just like indoors in our interest areas around the room, you should have books related to the activity that
Correct.
takes place
Yeah.
there. We also talked about having some toys like weather safe blocks so that children can build outdoors. So you can see what we're basically doing is taking the indoors and bringing some of the really good characteristics of it
Yeah.
outdoors.
Outside.
And not just assuming that every child is really cool in our climbing equipment.
Yeah.
Dramatic play can take place outdoors. We had, and I'm sure a lot of your programs do, we had those little houses,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the little
A
Tykes
little
kind of
house.
houses,
Yeah.
where the children could go in and pretend they were in a house and they were cooking for each other and all that
Yeah.
stuff. That's pretty, I think dramatic play outside is pretty
Or
common.
I worked at a school that brought like the kitchens that you would see that were like the plasticky type, the little tyke ones outside, because those are more waterproof
Yeah.
than those wooden ones. And they would like go out there and have like a little mud kitchen.
That's cool.
And they would like cook out there and do that kind of stuff.
That's
so
cool.
That's kind of cool too. Yeah.
You can also have some sort of bin outside for sensory experiences, and I would make that a nature focused area.
Yeah.
Whatever is going on at that time of year, I would put in that bin for them to explore with
Yeah.
their senses. So,
Yeah.
for example, during fall, I would have the pine cones in there and the leaves in there and the sticks in there.
Yeah.
During the spring, I might have flowers in there. I don't know what else.
Seeds, maybe.
Seeds, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Things to plant.
Things to plant.
We can be planting with the children.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be just today is a special event and we're going to plant. It can
Right.
be something offered to them all the time.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking, where are we putting all these plants? They can take them home.
Take them home. Yeah.
Take them home, I say.
Or start a garden at your school.
We used to have the shoe garden. Have I told you about this?
Oh, yeah. You told me about it. I don't know if you've told our
I don't know if
listeners
I've
about
told
it.
the peeps
Yeah,
about it.
Yeah.
So again, in a program that I used to direct, and we learned about this at a conference, by the way. This wasn't my original idea or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
But what we used to do is we told the families to please send in when they were outgrowing their shoes. So we told them from the beginning of the school year in
Yeah.
September, when your children outgrow their shoes, please send in a pair.
Yeah.
So that in the spring, we used their shoes as planters and we created a shoe garden.
Love this idea.
We created a shoe
Yeah.
garden. You just like put a little plastic liner in
Yeah.
there or something.
Yeah.
You have the children put the soil and the seeds in their own shoe. And we loved the ones with laces because you can tie them right to the fence on your
Yeah.
playground
Yeah.
at their eye level.
Yeah.
Velcro sometimes works too.
Velcro
We
would
used to
work,
figure
yeah.
out, I remember one year we had to bring out a small table to put some of the Velcro shoes on
Okay.
at their eye level.
Yeah.
And we wanted it to be at their eye level so that A, they could see their plant growing, and B, they could water it with our help, right?
Yeah.
And they loved it because they knew their own shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
They knew which ones were theirs.
Yeah.
So we had the shoe garden for several years, and we would, at the end of the school year, every child took their plants that were in their shoes home, And we had so many families who told us over the years, like, I still have their shoe.
Aw.
I still have their shoe plant on our porch or,
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
backyard or
Yeah.
whatever they have it.
That's cool.
It was a really nice keepsake for the
Yeah.
families too.
Yeah.
So, but planting doesn't have to be a one-day event. It
No.
can be, here, we're going to have things. If you want to plant a seed, go ahead and we'll send it home with you.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it shouldn't be a one-time event.
No, it
'cause
really shouldn't.
There's a whole like cycle to planting, where you could then, when the flower dies, take the seeds out, show
Right.
the kids, replant it, do it over and over again. Why aren't we doing more of those things outside? I don't know. Why people think like recess has to be like, you need to run or you need to ride bikes.
They
or
do
you
need to run.
They do, but like all for the whole half hour, maybe not.
They do need gross motor movement.
Yeah.
But it can also be more structured. It can
Yes,
be,
like structure that.
if I know that a child, and I'm sure this is true for many of you too, as well as the other thing, if I know a child is struggling with the physical play outside, I might offer to play with them. I
Right.
might
I
say,
would do
here, you want to
one-on-one.
toss the ball with
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
I would do that.
Yeah.
And remind the other children always that we have to be gentle with each other,
Right.
especially outdoors. There's so many ways that I think that we could do this. It does not have to be an outdoor chaotic free-for-all for all of the children.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder how many of us, I don't think I ever did, and I wonder how many of us have ever sat down with children once they're old enough and said to them, do you like going outdoors?
Yeah.
Do you like playing outdoors? Ask them if they like when we go outside.
Right.
And for those children who say, no, I don't like to go outside, maybe say to them, well, what would you like us to bring outside that you
That
can do
makes
while
it-
we're out there?
Yeah.
What would make you feel better
What
outside?
makes you feel better outside?
Right?
Yeah.
We'll say things to them like, did you like this book? Why don't we ever say,
Right.
did you like the outdoor play?
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
I think we assume childhood, running around. They're going to love it.
Yeah, but then I think of myself as a child, and I did not love that. So why we assume that everybody does?
Listen,
I don't
nowadays, I wish I loved that because it would make going to the gym more palatable.
agree. Or maybe I'd be one of those people that runs outside and like for exercise, and I am not that person. I am much more of an indoor person. I've always been an indoor person.
I think it was just really never fostered. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, I went recently to a gym and we had on like clothes and I had my bag with me and I needed a larger locker than the one right in the general area of the
Yeah.
gym. So I decided I'm going to go in the locker room and put my stuff away in there. I had a big bag, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I went in and I go into this locker room and I was alone in there for a minute and I looked around and I thought, for years I hated locker rooms. I hated gym. I hated locker rooms. And look at me now,
now
voluntarily
you're here.
paying for this
Yeah.
place
Yeah.
and coming in here.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I didn't love the chaos and I didn't love the physical stuff and
Right.
no one addressed it when I was young.
Right.
If we address it and if we make it so that children are enjoying their time out there and if we know they have to have gross motor movement, we incorporate it throughout the day and maybe they play with us a little bit
Right.
and we make that happen, but we do it in a way that reduces the stress for children instead of increasing it.
Right.
Maybe they will embrace their own physical health and taking care of that as they get older.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
When recess is very stressful when you're young, you resist anything related to it when you get older, and it's not good for us.
That's true.
All right, I hope you go back and
Yeah.
think about that and really observe the children and see who seems to be okay and who seems to be stressing this because
Yeah.
they don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, our preschool peeps. Catch you next time.
Bye, peeps.